These are the things that you'll be able to do by the end of this session. But before we proceed, you should be able to differentiate sporophyte and gametophytic phases, tabulate the differences between mitosis and meiosis, give a sequential list of key events in life cycle of a plant, differentiate between asexual and sexual reproduction, and describe the process of formation of spores and gametes. During the life cycle of plant, two types of cell divisions occur, mitosis and meiosis. Of these, mitosis is equational division in which the cells formed are exactly like the parent cells. There is no change in chromosome number. But in meiosis, the chromosome number is halved. So this is known as reduction division. Now in a plant, there are two life forms, diploid and haploid. The haploid is formed after meiosis from the diploid form. Now this diploid form is known as sporophyte, which reproduces through spores, and the haploid form is known as gametophyte, which reproduces through gametes. In a plant, the life cycle comprises of these two phases, the sporophytic phase and the gametophytic phase, alternating with each other. This type of life cycle is known as alternation of generation, during which sporophyte and gametophytes alternate with each other, that is, come one after the other repeatedly. Now this alternation of generation can be better understood through this life cycle. Here is the diploid sporophyte, which undergoes meiosis to form spores. Haploid spores will germinate to form haploid gametophyte. These haploid gametophyte will reproduce through gametes, so they will form the male gamete and the female gamete. Remember, since the spores were haploid, gametophyte is haploid, so male and female gametes are also haploid. These male and female gametes undergo fertilization to form the zygote, and the diploid number is restored. This zygote will then germinate to form the diploid sporophyte. Now you can see that the entire life cycle can be divided into two phases. One phase in which the cells are haploid and another phase in which the cells are diploid, and these two phases continuously alternate with each other. This is known as alternation of generations. Now on the basis which phase, haploid or diploid, is taking more time in the life cycle or is more dominant, the plant life cycle can be considered as haplontic, diplontic or HAPLO-DIPLONTIC. Let's study these three types of life cycles in detail. The first one is the haplontic life cycle. In the haplontic life cycle, the gametophyte or the haploid phase is dominant. The sporophyte is represented by the zygote only. Here you can see that syngamy leads to formation of zygote, and immediately after zygote formation, meiosis occurs, leading to formation of spores. The sporophyte here is dependent on the gametophyte. The meiosis occurs in zygote to form the haploid gametophyte. The gametophyte is independent, free living, and this type of life cycle is found in algae such as volvox, Spirogyra and Chlamydomonas. The second one is the diplontic life cycle. In this you can see the diploid phase is more dominant, that is the sporophyte is more dominant. The haploid phase is restricted to the gametes which are formed, and these haploid gametes once after syngamy immediately produce zygote. The main plant body is diploid, and only during the gamete formation the haploid stages are formed. So diploid sporophyte is dominant. The sporophyte is photosynthetic and is independent, while the gametophyte is represented by single to a very few celled, very simple structure. The meiosis occurs only at the time of gamete formation, and these gametes fertilize each other, and after fertilization they again form a diploid zygote. Examples are gymnosperms and angiosperms, and among the alga, fucus is one which shows diplontic life cycle. The third one is the haplontic diplontic life cycle or haplodiplontich life cycle. In this you can see that both sporophyte and gametophyte become equally prominent. So both of these are multicellular and photosynthetic, both are independent. Either sporophyte or gametophyte may be dominant. In bryophytes, the gametophyte is dominant. In sporophyte is short-lived and dependent. But in pteridophytes, the sporophyte is dominant and the gametophyte is short-lived and dependent. So both pteridophyte and bryophyte are haplodiplontich, but both are different. Some alga too are haplodiplontich. Example, ectocarpus and polysiphonia. With this we come to the end of the lesson, but before we start solving the question, take a quick look at what all we learnt during this session. Now these are your questions for practice. Try solving them. If you have any problems in these questions, watch the video again or you can drop a comment.